Hi there, you're on Gossip Says channel. Enjoy watching, subscribe and like it. It's growing our community. Story 1. Man refuses to give his daughter back to her bio mom. To avoid confusion, my daughter, Millie 14, is biologically my niece. So what happened was, years ago when Millie was about 3, my sister, her mom, Layla 38, left to work in another country, leaving Millie in my 34-plank mascare. Millie's father died before she was born. Layla had promised to send money for me to take care of Millie and that she'd call and visit as often as she could until she could take Millie to live with her permanently. After she left, she called probably 3 times in the first 2 months and then went AWOL. For years I tried to find out what happened and assumed the worst, only to hear from one of her friends a couple of years later that she got married to someone else and has an entire new family. I was heartbroken because Millie would ask when her mom was coming back and I never knew what to say except soon. But even she grew tired of it and realized when she was about 8 that her mom wasn't coming back anytime soon. That's if she was coming back at all. Because of this situation, me and my wife were granted parental rights to Millie, and she couldn't have been happier that we were officially her parents. Well, what do you know? After 11 years, Layla finally graced us with her long overdue return last week, along with her new very wealthy family and 2 children. Most of the family was happy with her return, but me, my mom, dad, and my wife were nothing short of furious. She tried to explain, but all that we heard was I abandoned my own daughter and made a new family. As if that wasn't enough, she practically demanded her daughter back. Mom and Dad weren't having it at all and told her Millie belongs with me and my wife and that she no longer has any right to her. Welp, there she goes screaming at me about stealing her daughter because I was infertile, and to hear that come out from her mouth hurt me in a way I've never been hurt before, to the point where I cried and left. Me being infertile has always been my weak point, and for her to casually bring it up like that despite being my sister broke me. For the next days, I prevented her from contacting Millie, and I haven't told her that Layla is back because I'm scared I'll lose my daughter. I'm a human being too. I get attached, especially to someone I've had to raise. That too out of my own pocket. Not that I'm complaining. I believe Millie is my daughter, and I can't let her go back to the very same woman who abandoned her. Does this make me tough? Edit. I'd like to thank each and every one of you. All your criticism is valid, and I really appreciate you guys for making me realize that I might lose my daughter by keeping the return of her mom away from her. I'd also like to apologize for the way I phrased some of the things. By no means do I think of my daughter as some possession. She is her own person and doesn't belong to anyone. As such, I've changed the phrase belong to belong with to accurately represent what was meant. I love you guys for all the support you've given me, and I definitely will consult a lawyer. Me and my wife have agreed to tell Millie about her mother tonight, and we will make sure it's all about how she feels and not about us. I would like to apologize for not responding to the comments and messages I've received lately. Things have been tough ever since we told Millie about Layla's return. After all the support and advice, you deserve an update on the situation. I don't even know where to begin really. Everything has been a mess. Way too much happened the day after we told Millie. Since there's no word limit here, I'll try getting into as much detail as I can. That night, we told Millie that Layla had returned, and for a good few minutes, she was looking at us as if waiting for us to say we were joking, but after she realized we were not, she broke down into tears and it hurt. Of course she wanted to know more, and though we were hesitant, we ended up telling her about Layla and her new family. I'd never seen her that furious. She was all over the place, throwing stuff around, and we let her because she needed to let it all out. For the night, she refused to talk to me since I should have told her the moment she came back, and my wife stayed with her for the night. Her anger subsided by morning, and we patched things up. At first, she wasn't sure if she wanted anything to do with Layla, but we let her make that choice, and she wanted to see her. And oh, so God help me with that woman. We set up the meeting for her and Layla, but she brought her entire family to the house along with her expensive gifts, and everything went downhill from there. Need to mention a very important part that should have made Layla realize she truly abandoned Millie. Along with the family was her sister-in-law, Tanya, about the same age as her. When both of them entered, Millie could not even recognize who amongst them was Layla, and they looked worlds apart from each other. I had hoped that was enough to convince her to see what she did, but she carried on and pointed out that she was Layla, all while attempting to get close to her even when she was clearly distancing herself. It got so bad that my wife had to come in between them and her husband had to pull her away. That's when she started yelling at my wife for coming in between her and Millie, also accusing her of replacing her. What was there to replace? She was never there to begin with. And wow, what a first impression she made to the kid she abandoned. Millie became infuriated once more and things were said. When I say she said what needed to be said, I mean it. It was a serious situation, but me and my wife were struggling to hide our smiles when Millie told Layla off. She called her cruel, selfish, disgusting, evil, and many more vile words to express her hatred towards her. Tanya had to take Layla's kids outside. Normally, I'd not entertain the vocabulary Millie was using, but for this specific instance, I just had to allow it. She was too worked up after this, and I had to take care upstairs to calm down. Now it was just me and my wifey Layla and her husband. And along came the usual chorus. She accused us once again, now saying we influenced Millie to hate her. She was in tears, and for a minute, I felt sorry for her. My wife politely asked we discuss this like adults. Now the revelations begin, and honestly, I rest my case. As we were recalling events of the past and why Layla never contacted us again, Jeremy, her husband, was visibly confused. He looked lost, completely lost, to the point where I thought he wasn't feeling well, and I offered we take a walk. And well, we start talking about this matter, and I was beyond shocked. According to him, when he and Layla met, she never said anything about a child, and only after the marriage did she reveal she had a child. Not by choice anyway, because he found out from one of my billion texts to her regarding Millie. She further lied and said my family forced her to give up her child to me because I was infertile and desperate for a child that shared blood with me. But it doesn't end there. When Jeremy wanted to read the rest of the texts, she deleted them because I was apparently insulting and making threats to her that were so disturbing she didn't want Jeremy to see them. Of course, I showed him the texts from my phone and he couldn't believe it. It gets even worse. It was said that I was preventing her from contacting Millie, and she didn't even want to involve the police in the matter because me and my family were dangerous, so she thought it was best not to contact us anymore to protect her new family. At some point, I was thinking to myself how incredibly stupid Jeremy was to believe Layla's blatant attempts to cover the fact that she abandoned a child. But I feel for the guy. He was probably so smitten with my sister, just like all her exes, that he failed to see through her pretentiousness. I didn't even get to ask why they chose to come back now because Jeremy was angry and he went back inside fuming. They were fighting so loudly I had to send them outside. It was clearly going to get violent and we had to physically separate the two. Jeremy took Tanya and the kids and left, leaving Layla there. My very empathetic wife let her stay in our house since she was wailing so much, and honestly, after the lies, I couldn't care less about her. I did ask Millie if she was okay with Layla spending the night, and after seeing Layla break down like that, I wasn't surprised she let her stay. She made it very clear the only reason she was allowing it is because she's not like her, and that was enough to let me know we've been doing a good job raising her. She also said she was still waiting for her to explain why she abandoned her and why she chose to come back now. We did get to discuss how she felt about Layla overall, and needless to say, she was very disappointed with her approach. I took the chance to assure her she shouldn't be pressured to side with me and my wife, and that she can get to know Layla if she wants to. We would always love her no matter what. She assured me she wouldn't be going anywhere, and it was very emotional for me because my heart was at ease hearing her say that. Layla and Jeremy are still not talking, so Layla lives with us for now, since my parents don't want her at their house either, and my wife thinks she's too unstable to be left alone. But the more she delays telling us the truth, the faster her time is running out in the house. I just don't recognize my sister anymore. She was never like this. My parents raised her so well. I get she was traumatized by Millie's father's death, but surely it's not enough to change someone so drastically, and to abandon your child despite knowing you're the only parent they have left, then coming back after a long time to take her away from people who love her. It just makes it hard for me to sympathize with her. I doubt any one of us will take this to the courts now that Layla's husband knows the truth. Please subscribe, leave comments, rate videos, and click the bell not to miss my videos. Story 2. Would I be the asshole if I took action about my husband's snoring? I, 36 Fahrenheit, am getting both concerned and fed up with my husband's 29 plank mass snoring. We've been married for a few years, but the consistent snoring has only started over the past 6 months or so. Before then, usually he would only snore if he was out drinking with his buddies all night. Fast forward to now, and I'm waking up about 10 times a night. I've mentioned the more frequent snoring to him a few times, but of course, since he's not experiencing it while he's awake, he just shrugs it off. He's gained a bit of weight over the past 3 years, maybe 30 to 40 pounds, and I'm wondering if that's what's triggered the snoring. Of course, there's not really a good way for me to bring that up as a potential cause without seeming like a little bit of a jerk, and I know there might be other causes. I absolutely love my husband to bits, but I am a very grumpy person when I don't get sleep. WIBDA if I insisted that he visit a doctor about his snoring or say that we will have separate sleeping arrangements until he does so. Verdict, NTA, edit on cue for all the kind responses and suggestions. I see I'm not the only one literally and metaphorically losing sleep over snoring. I hadn't really thought about sleep apnea being a possibility for him, but I have been concerned there is an underlying medical issue. I'll be looking into more substantial pillows and making sure there's not some allergen that could be irritating his system in our room. I'm also going to have a discussion with him and be clear that I'm coming from a place of love and concern. Since I know he doesn't love going to the clinic, I'll offer to go to the doctor with him so we can see if he needs a sleep study. We do have a spare bedroom, so if I need to escape in there periodically, I will. My previous WIBDA posting was pretty quiet, but I appreciated everyone who took the time to respond. I'm providing an update in hopes that maybe our experience will help internet strangers also dealing with this. Based on the AIDA feedback, I sat down with my husband to share my concerns about the sudden onset of his excessive snoring. I said I thought he may have developed sleep apnea, which could be serious. I encouraged him to go see a doctor, stating that I would be willing to go with him. I also said I would go to the guest room if I was unable to sleep due to the snoring. After this conversation, nothing really changed, and it made me very frustrated. There were a few times when I retreated to the guest room to try to sleep. The first time, I didn't lock the door. He came in the room, immediately fell back asleep, and snored right in my face. I was pissed and made it clear that if I was in the guest room sleeping, it was because he was snoring and he was not to come in. This pattern went on for a bit before everything blew up mid-April. I asked if he wanted to come for a walk with me and he said he would. Just a few minutes into the walk, he said I was walking too fast and taking it too seriously. I told him if he didn't want to walk, he should just go home. He did, and I finished my walk, fuming. When I got home, I said we needed to talk. I told him first and foremost that I love him to bits, but I was not going to sugarcoat what I needed to say. I reminded him that he used to be so active, as we used to hike and run together. Now, he had gone from being a healthy weight to overweight to obese. I reminded him of the earlier conversation about sleep apnea and asked if he had looked into the causes of the condition. He admitted that he hadn't. I said that while not all cases have the same cause, many times sudden snoring can be the result of weight gain or serious problems. I almost cried at this point, saying I was really worried about the long-term impact on his health if things didn't change. I ended the conversation by saying that I realized that the beginning of a pandemic is a bad time to try to get healthy. He had listened quietly the whole time before responding, or is it? He thanked me for my honesty and acknowledged that he had not taken any of this seriously, but that he wanted to. Although he didn't go see a doctor, he has been working out and eating well since that conversation. Yesterday, he shared that he was down 15 pounds and his goal is to lose 20 more by the end of the summer. His snoring has pretty much stopped and we are both sleeping better. It wasn't easy to have those talks, but I'm thrilled that he took the initiative to take care of himself and I no longer have to worry about sleeping in the spare room.